If you want to climb Mount Sogeumgangsan to Baengnyulsa Temple, you may prefer to walk on the winding trail among rocks. Though they don't always block your way, they seem to assert themselves. But you will feel at ease when you sit down on them because they modestly think they exist to serve you in that way. If you look down at Gyeongju Temple site, you can recognize several stone Buddhas. It is a place where people come to pray from dawn to sunset. If you go to Baengnyulsa Temple by the paved road, you will pass through a dark bamboo thicket. There is also a stone stairway. However, the natural trails are preferable for climbers. You will probably be out of breath when you arrive at Baengnyulsa Temple. The temple consists of Daeongjeon Hall, or the main shrine, a temple dormitory, a pavilion for a bell, and Samsungak dedicated to three saints. Since it is located on a steep slope, there is little space for the buildings. Baengnyulsa Temple was founded in 528, the 15th year of King Beopheung's reign, the year after Lee Cha-dong was martyred. It is one of the oldest temples in Korea, founded after the official approval of Buddhism in the Silla period. It was built to commemorate Lee Cha-dong's martyrdom. The Daeongjeon Hall was severely damaged during the Japanese invasion of Korea in 1592, though some say it was rebuilt shortly after the invasion. If you consider the multiple complex blockade, however, you may agree that it was built in the late Joseon Dynasty. If it is true that the style of the platform has remained unchanged since its foundation, then Daeongjeon Hall must have been as narrow during the Silla periods as it is now. Big rocks seem about to fall in front of and beside Daeongjeon Hall. Who is the artist that carved the three-story pagoda on the surface of the rock in the south? You can't see everything because it is covered with moss. There might not have been enough space to build a tower in front of Daeongjeon Hall. There used to be a pavilion called Soru or Bongsoru in the yard of the monks' dormitory, along with a pavilion for a bell. This was before the Japanese colonial era. If you look at old pictures, you can see that this was a two-story building where people could enjoy viewing the city of Gyeongju. According to Samgukyusa, there used to be a bodhisattva of great compassion in the temple. She was reputed to save people in despair. In 693, in the second year of King Hyoso's reign, Buerang, who had become the leader of Hwarang society the previous year, led his group of Hwarang on a daring trip to Gangneung. However, he was ambushed by the hostile Malgal tribe, and his followers retreated, except for Ansang, who pursued him. King Hyoso was greatly disappointed to hear the news. Noticing the auspicious cloud that hovered over the Royal Treasury building with its national treasures, he had the building checked. He learned that two treasures, a stringed instrument and a divine flute, had disappeared. The stringed instrument was probably a traditional instrument like a gayagum, and the divine flute was made of precious jade. Buerang's parents prayed day and night before the Bodhisattva, asking for their son's safety. One day, out of nowhere, the stringed instrument and the flute appeared on the juniper table in the shrine, and Buerang and Ansang also appeared behind the statue of Bodhisattva. Buerang explained what had happened. He said that he was forced to take care of horses on the ranch during his captivity. One day, a neat monk appeared with the two lost national treasures in his hand and asked him to follow him. When they got to the beach, they met Ansang. The monk broke the flute in two and told Buerang and Ansang to mount each half of the flute. The monk then climbed onto the stringed instrument and flew to this temple in no time at all. When Buerang returned the sacred treasures to the king, telling him what had happened, the king donated some gold and silver bowls and precious monk's clothes to this temple, thanking the Bodhisattva for its grace. In addition, there used to be a Gilt-Bronze standing Buddha of medicine here, created in the late 8th and early 9th centuries. In 1927, however, it was moved to the Gyeongju National Museum with the Ichadon martyrdom stele. The Buddha is one of the few remaining Gilt-Bronze Buddha statue of the Silla dynasty. Though some say that the folds of the clothes are stereotyped, the Buddha has a gentle smiling face and very wide sleeves. Can you see a hint of the classic ideal beauty in him? Now let's talk about the Ichadon martyrdom stele. In 527, the 14th year of King Beopheung's reign, a young official called Ichadon volunteered to dedicate his life to the official recognition of Buddhism. This is the stele commemorating his martyrdom. It is made of granite in the shapes of hexagonal pillars with the height of 106 centimeters and a width of each side of 29 centimeters. The rounded tower at the top suggests that it is originally had a loop stone. The scene of Ichadon being beheaded is depicted on the first surface. The earthly waves show the ground shaking at the catastrophic moment, and the flower rain is falling from the sky. The scene in which milk, not blood, is pouring from his neck to the sky is depicted expressively. The other 5 sides are divided into grids, and the letter is carved in each square. The stele is so weathered that only half of the characters can be deciphered. Let's summarize the readable part. This monument was erected on August 10th, 818, the 10th year of King Honduk's reign, when King Beopheung encouraged people to convert to Buddhism and to have it nationally approved. Most of his subjects were indifferent. Only Ichadon understood and decided to follow the king. Ichadon spread the false news that the king intended to build a temple and then begged the king to behead him for this deceit. He hoped that his death would persuade the Silla citizens to follow the king's wishes. The king tried to dissuade him, but in the end he could not refuse Ichadon's strong will. The officials took off his official hat, tied his hand behind him, and dragged him to the execution ground. A white milk spurted from his neck. Flower rain fell from the sky, and the ground shook at that moment. It was a saint's death. The people, agitated and anxious, wailed sadly, and the streets were filled with groans. Samgukyusa gives us further information. It tells us that on August 5th, 817, the Buddhist supreme leader Haryong and others reconstructed Ichadon's tomb and erected a great stele there. The legendary story that when Ichadon was beheaded, his head flew to this temple is not found in either record, but in Haedong Goseungjan. He was buried in the mountain, Mount Sogeumgangsan, and his wife chose a sunny spot for this temple in his memory. It is originally called the Jachusa Temple. The characters on the stele are supposed to be a collection of the calligraphy of Kim Seng, the famous calligrapher of Silla. Recently, a scholar alleged that The monument was not brought to Gyeongju Museum from Baengnyulsa Temple, but from the place where Ichadon's tomb and shrine was supposedly located in 1914. His claims drew a certain amount of attention. According to Donggyeongjapgi, this temple was rebuilt by Yu Seung-sun, the mayor of Gyeongju, after it had been almost ruined by the Japanese invasions at the end of Goryeo Dynasty. In addition, poems of Baekhyosoo, a poet of Goryeo Dynasty, are cited in Donggyeongjapgi. The Seoru Pavilion or Bongseoru Pavilion was a lookout for traveling poets who mourned the collapsed kingdom of Silla. Baekhyosoo says in his poem that when he looks down at splendid houses in the old capital, probably 9 out of 10 houses are golden temples. He also described the incomparable harmony of the dedicated Bodhisattva of great compassion in the main hall, and the old story of Buerang posted on the wall behind the Buddhas. His poem suggests that the statue of Bodhisattva and the story written on the back wall had remained until that time. Baengnyulsa Temple looks shabby now. The countless treasures have been lost or scattered. Look at these cornerstones and the roof of the stone lantern scattered in the yard. Now that the monks of the temple has covered the facade of the Daeungjeon Hall to make a plastic place of worship, you might be disappointed. However, this is the temple that commemorates and reminds us of Yi Cha-don's noble spirit of martyrdom. This is the mountain where his sacred remains rest in peace. There is another rock-carved seated Buddha triad near this temple. Set out on the trail upward, and azaleas may guide you. It is located near the summit of mountain. Sadly, the triad of Amitabha Buddha on his log is so worn out that you can hardly identify it. The triad consists of the Bodhisattva of great compassion and the Bodhisattva of great power and wisdom. You may come down the road with a gloomy heart. Only the colorful lotus lanterns are hung in 2 lines splendidly. The peach flowers are the only things that might soothe your mind.